yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's what I thought about it all day, prayed a lot about it. I think we're at the point and place in time we need some comfort. We need some feeding with heartfelt words of God. You see that? That's life. That's life. When I was little, they said drink 8 glasses a day. Was that what it was? 8 or 6? 8? Can you drink 8 glasses of water? But you know, you get liquid from coffee and soft drinks and stuff. But your body has to have water. You're comprised of probably 90% water in your body. Your flesh. One of the first things they do when they take you to the hospital and you're sick, what do? They what? They hydrate you. You can go without food longer than you can go without water. Doesn't that look good? When God put everything together, do you realize that probably 75 or 80% of the world, when you look out on what He created water. It's water. You've got the continents between the big oceans. You've got the seas. You've got all of those things. Perfect. Perfect. What does water mean physically? It means life. Do you know what water means spiritually? It means life. There's 2 parts of us. We need to get that right. And until you understand that there's 2 parts of you. There is the fleshly body that you live in, and Paul said, there's a constant battle in my life, my spirit against my flesh. And he said the 2 are contrary to each other. They don't get along. They never have. They never will. Everyone's sitting in here tonight. And if anybody sees it another way or something, you say, I don't believe that. Talk to me after church. When God made man, here's what He said. Let us make man in our image and after our likeness. What is God? Somebody tell me. God is a spirit. God has nothing to do with the flesh with the exception His Son took upon Himself the image of a man. He was not made from the dust of the earth like we are. There is a spirit that lives within every human being. When you're born, you have the Spirit of God in you. It may lie dormant for years. But somewhere in your life, that is going to be quickened, and you're going to have to deal with it when God says things ain't right in your life. This is what you need to do to correct it. It can happen at 12 or 15 or 16 or, God forbid, 80. What would I feel like tonight if I spent 80 years of my life doing nothing? Taking from, never giving, never helping, never knowing the love of God. But there will be a time when that Spirit of God is quickening. Now, someone has referred to that as conscience. I refer to it as the Spirit of God. Even when you're small, after you get out of that rebellious stage and the kicking and crying and stuff, and you get corrected for it. You see something going on and you say to yourself, that is not right. And you're not a Christian. But yet you see something and you say, that is not right for that person to be treated that way. Or that is not right to happen. Who do you think that is? It's not evil. It's not the devil. And all of us, you call it conscious, you call it what you want to, but the Spirit of God is in you. Let me show you the importance of water. It's been debated. I don't debate anymore. I will absolutely not. You believe it your way, I'll believe it my way, and we'll let God sort out the difference. Our whole world needs to do that. We need to quit judging each other. We need to quit talking about each other. We need to stop separating and work for the bringing together. I want to go to Matthew chapter 4. And I want to read just a couple, 3 verses in there. Now, tomorrow's Saturday, right? I got the right date? That means if we go late here tonight, you can sleep in, right? All right, I got some amens. No, I don't think it'll be that long, but I hope you have as good a time as I'm having bringing it to you. It's the best I've felt in a long time. I couldn't hardly wait to get here today. John was baptizing in the Jordan just like God had said he would. He was the forerunner. He was the forerunner of Jesus, and the Bible said he was going to come and do that. And he was baptizing in the Jordan. He was baptizing for unto repentance, not for repentance. There's a big difference. Okay, I'm going to read it. Then Jesus came from Galilee to John at the Jordan to be baptized of him. Now remember, we're talking about the sinless Son of God that had no sin. We're baptized today for the remission of sin because we have sinned against God. We have sinned against our parents. We have sinned against our world around us, and we are a part of that sin. Let me say this to young people tonight. If you've got a Christian mommy and daddy, you better cherish them, and you better listen, because there's a lot of kids that's messing their life up so bad tonight that it is pathetic. And so if you're at that age tonight, you're accountable to God. You're not going to be taken care of because you go to Sunday school and church and you was raised in Sunday school and church and I had Christian parents. That's a cop-out. Somewhere the Spirit of God, maybe even tonight, is going to be quickened in you. And we're going to see a need to have our life changed. Or in other words, we need reprogramming. And John tried to prevent him, saying, he said, I need to be baptized by you. Are you coming to me? Listen to the words of the Master. You may hear it again sometime, someplace in your encounter with God. But Jesus answered and said to him, permit it to be so now. For thus it is fitting for us to fulfill all righteousness. In short, he said, it is the right thing to do. He was not baptized for the remission of sin, but there was coming at Pentecost a church to be built upon the Word of God. And that was going to be one of the requirements, brother, whether you believe it or not. It is a requirement. Jesus, out of his own mouth, says this is the fulfillment of righteousness, or the right thing to do. He had no sin. But there was coming generations after him that would be one of the requirements. Water. The next thing I want to talk about just a little bit, I want you, if you will, to turn to John chapter 3. And I think I want to start with, let's just go to 4. And I want to start with the second verse. Bear with me. Let's go to 3. Verse 4, or chapter 4, verse 3. He left Judea and parted again to Galilee. Now, where we find him back in Galilee after his baptism. And so he came to a city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near the plot of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. A specified place, it was an oasis in the Middle East. Water is more of a valuable thing than it is here. They don't have the rivers, the streams that we have. It's desert. Water was life-giving, and Jacob dug a well. That's where he fed his cattle. He left it to his sons. And here we find Jesus benefiting from that because of what somebody else had done. Will someone today benefit from what you build, what you say, and what you do, or will it cause them a problem? I listened to a program the other day, and I have nothing. People can do what they want to, how they want to. Not my sin. There was a 30-minute program, and it was nothing but singing praise. And you say, well, what is wrong with praise? If I never look at myself, I will never know guilt. I can sing praises to God all day long and talk about His goodness, His mercy, His power and stuff until I'm confronted with me. That's when I've got to answer. What about me? I know who you are. You are great. You're magnificent. You are love in every form. You are just. You are all of these things. And I can sing that for 30 minutes and never think a word about me. That's where our world is going today. You don't hear hymns like this sung anymore. No. It's all about praise. These songs make you think of yourself, your relationship with God, your destiny with God, and it's going to happen. I think last night in a prayer service, a young lady had taken her life. What comes down so hard on people that they do that? And it can happen to anyone. It can happen to anyone. So we find out that Jacob's well is there. Let me find it. So he came to a city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near the plot of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Now Jacob's well was there. Jesus, therefore, being wearied from his journey, why, absolutely, he got tired. I could sing songs of praise and said, you never got tired. You are all powerful. You never are tired. You never wept. You never done these things. And the Bible said that he did. The Bible said that he wept. The Bible said that he laughed. The Bible said that he has people in derision. They don't know what to do. You can't fill your church houses today with people that need the Lord. They run, brother. You can run, but you can't hide. Sooner or later, you're going to have to look God in the face, and He's going to open the books on you. And then, brother, if you're not one of His children, you have flat had the lick. Hell is awaiting those that have its mouth open. Think about that. A woman of Samaria came to draw water. And Jesus said to her, give me a drink. I'm going to make you thirsty for this. That is so good. That is so good. That's what he said. Ooh. He said, give me a drink. He was tired. He was worried. Here's the reason. His disciples had gone away from the city to buy food. By the way, I'm using the New King James Version, meaning the same, wording a little bit different. They went into the city to buy food. Those people got to eat. Some of the songs that's sung today, you would never know that they had a worry. They never had a care. They never had excuse me, but anything. But the Bible tells the truth. The Bible said he was thirsty. He said that one other time. When was it? When was it that he said that? On the cross, he said, I thirst. As the fluids drained from his body, dehydration had set in, pain and anguish beyond Scripture. He said, I thirst. He told her, here, give me a drink. Verse 8 says, for his disciples had gone away in the city to buy food. Then the woman of Samaria said to him, how is it that you, being a Jew, ask a drink from me, a Samaritan woman? Now there's a problem there. There's a problem there. What would it make any difference who was a Jew, who was a Samaritan? God died for the sins of all people. I am not so concerned today, and it's prevalent in our country, about the color of your skin. I can care less, but I am concerned about what's in the skin. You judge somebody by color today, that is a sin. That is a sin that God frowns upon. There's a difference. How is it that you, being a Jew, ask a drink from me, a Samaritan woman? For Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans. Do you think that was right? What? That was one of the reasons for his coming, was to unite mankind. There used to be a little song. Some of the young people maybe were saying, red and yellow. Somebody sang it for me. Red and yellow, black and white, they are precious in his sight. Jesus was the little children of the world. You got it right. That's a good little song. It will bode you well in your dealings with humanity as you grow up and as you have to deal with people. Don't let that make you stumble. That was the lesson there. And here he said, Jesus answered and said to her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is who says to you, give me a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you living water. Not this. Not this. Living water. What is it? Does water save life? Is water necessary for the human body? Absolutely. Is it necessary for the spirit? Yes. People are dying spiritually in our churches today because men are failing to come at the very heart of the gospel. Love, compassion, understanding, all of the things that we need. And sometimes we punish ourselves when we should be happy because we're worried about something else and we can't change it. It really helps me. I change what I can, and what I can't change, I walk off and leave it. The woman said to him, Sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. When do you get that living water? Where then do you get that living water? There's a message in the 12th verse. Look at it closely. Are you greater than our father Jacob? Oh, now, we've got a Samaritan, we've got a Jew. And she says, are you greater than our father Jacob? And he said to, Jesus answered and said, well, let me finish that. Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as well as his sons and his livestock? Jesus answered and said to her, whoever drinks of this water will thirst again. Right here. I hope you're thirsty when this meeting's over tonight and you hit the water cooler. That's why I've got it right here. Isn't that beautiful? Or you get thirsty. That's not the water he's talking about. It wasn't at all. Sometimes we mistake it. When we talk to someone about their condition of their soul, and we expect them to understand. No, they don't understand. I didn't understand it when people talked to me. Right in this very house in October of 1961. But I'll tell you what, God's Spirit was reunited with that had always been in there. And me and Madison made a commitment, a life commitment. I've saw people come into a big upswelling revivals and stuff, and 2 weeks later, you couldn't find them. Listen, once God converts you, it is for good. You may get out of condition with Him. You may do things that you shouldn't, and He chastises us for it because He loves us. Here was His answer. And we'll read it again. Jesus answered and said to her, whoever drinks of this water will thirst again. But whosoever drinks of the water that I shall give him will never thirst. But the water that I shall give in him will become a fountain of water springing up into everlasting life. What fuels your engine today? What fuels your body today? You say, well, the food I eat. I'm not talking about the fleshly body. What fuels your spirituality? What makes you think that you can't be happy in the midst of a perverse generation? What makes you think that you can't be happy if people are going to hell around you and there's nothing you can do about it because they won't listen? It's a big difference. I drank of that water, and it is within me, and has been for years and years and years. And many of you sitting here, listen, I remember when some of you walked up this aisle. I remember when the Spirit of God was rekindled by His blessed Word, and you changed your life forever, and you're still changed, and you're still here. That's the water that Jesus was talking about. That's in every Christian that has been reprogrammed. All right. I want to go to let me find it. I've got the big way of turning this from my tail. I want to go to I know where I'm going. Back over here. Not as swift as I used to. That's debatable if I ever was. Sue. You got a choice. If I ask you tonight, what about rich people? What's your attitude about rich people? Oh. Don't be like that. If you didn't have rich people, you wouldn't have any jobs. You couldn't make a living. You couldn't make any money. People take chances. People are successful. It's not about the amount. I can take $1 million and I can hoard it up, or I can use it to help. I can take a dollar bill and sin just as much as the man with $1 million. It's not about that. We need to educate our people to quit being prejudiced against rich people or poor people or whatever. And he gave a perfect illustration of that in the Gospel of Luke, 16th chapter. I'm going to start with the 19th verse. Listen to this. This is two people that live. You make a decision. You make a decision. You take care of yourself and your eternal salvation. Don't you dare leave it to somebody else. You need to take care of yourself and in your relationship with God. And you know, even here tonight, you know if you have obeyed that form of doctrine that was once delivered, it hasn't changed a word since Pentecost. Men have changed it. Men are going to get people in trouble. Listen, I don't want anybody's blood on my hands. Paul said, I have not shunned to declare unto you the whole counsel of God. I'm not interested in numbers. I'm contented with our little flock right here at Lacy Creek as long as we are strong in the faith and that we love each other and that we're doing what God said. Churches are losing members. Why? Because the world has a greater calling now. There's more things in the devil's arsenal than there was when I was young. You just got to make a decision. You say, well, that's not easy to do. You better believe it's not easy. It's not easy to step out of that seat and say to this congregation, I have sinned before God. I have sinned before God. How many times anymore do you see a broken and contrite spirit? And I'm going to tell you something. Until God breaks you down, you will never be a usable vessel for His work. You need reprogramming. There was a certain rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen and fared sumptuously every day. Now, what is wrong with that? What is wrong with that? I like to fare sumptuously to a point. I like everything that he was doing there. So what's wrong with that? I'll tell you what was wrong with him. There's nothing wrong in what he's had. It was wrong in his attitude about it. Do you realize that there's people in this kingdom that are very rich? And sometimes you look at them and say, they never do nothing for nobody. Don't say that. You don't know that. I know of people that have built things that help countless thousands of people. You see, we pass judgment. Now, who passes judgment? Somebody tell me.
God.
What? You don't know who passes judgment? Come on, don't be bashful, Satan. Come on. You God does. Judgment's not ours to give. And we get in that judgmental period, I'll guarantee you, you're going to be an unhappy camper. Because it'll eat away at you like a cancer. I know. Been there. Came out of it. Okay, now that's the way he was living. We say, okay, why? Was there anything wrong in that? Was there a sin in that? Somebody say, yeah, if you feel like there was. See, you can't and tell the truth. Then on the other hand, but there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, full of sores, who was laid at his gate. This fella had problems. He evidently didn't have anything. I don't know why, so I'm not going in that area, but he was a beggar. We make choices in our life that makes us rich or can destroy us and make us poor. Our decisions today forms the very platform of our tomorrows, the decisions we make today. But he was right at this fellow's gate. So that tells me he had knowledge. condition of that man. Desiring to be fed with the crumbs which fell from the rich man's table. Didn't ask for much, just crumbs, just enough to survive. You're rich. Can I have just enough to survive? Moreover, the dogs came and licked his sores. When an animal has more compassion than a human being, brother, we got trouble. We have got big trouble. We've got it in our country today. There's people that believes it's wrong to kill a baby in the womb or just as it comes out. They've even passed laws that says that's all right. Brother, God said it's murder. And yet they'll take care of their animals and they'll put you in jail for killing an animal. But they'll kill babies by the thousands. And do you think that's right? How do you think God looks at it? You have every right to look at it exactly the way God looks down on it and sees it. The pathetic condition that this nation has become. I'm just saying tonight, don't be a part of that. You don't have to be a part of it. You can live your life in peace and tranquility as long as you're in harmony with God. You get out of harmony with God, you got trouble. There ain't going to be no rest. You're going to run. You're going to try to do everything in the world to evade knowing what you should do. And so it was that the beggar died. It was carried to the angels to Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. In the great old inner equal, the staff of the beggar and the scepter of the prince are laid side by side, and God makes no respect. And that's where we're all going. You say, well, how morbid. Listen, I want to stir you up tonight. I want to tell you tonight, you may be in the best of health there is, and in 4 to 5 minutes you could be history, and they're going to be saying words over you. That's where we're at. That's life. Both of them died. Now, let's look at the results. That's the fair thing to do. Remember, they both died. The beggar was in Abraham's bosom, and that's another sermon, so I'm not going to comment too much there. And being in torments, the rich man, being in Hades or hell, he lifted up his eyes and saw Abraham afar off and Lazarus in his bosom. Now we've got an entirely different situation. All of his riches are no good. You cannot buy eternal salvation, and you cannot escape the results of living a life. I've said in funerals, death is the doorway that all men must pass through. All humanity must pass through that he can take a look at us. Then he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me and send Lazarus that he may dip the tip of his fingers in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in these flames. It is so good. Now we've got an earthly situation. Now we find ourselves in a situation after death. I enjoy life every day. I enjoy the fruits of my hand. There's nothing better than at the end of a day that a man can look back on his work or his labor and see a beautiful mowed field. or to know that you helped some child that day, or that you said an encouraging word to someone. You didn't say nothing bad about your neighbor. You didn't gossip. You didn't do these things. That's peace. That's peace. And now he says, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus that he may dip the tip of his tongue in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in these flames. But Abraham said, listen to this. We all need to listen to this. But Abraham said, son, remember that in your lifetime you received your good things, and likewise Lazarus his evil things, but now he is comforted and you are tormented. That thing completely swung around. He got into another situation. He was doomed and he knew it because God had said it. He had said, that's it. Your destination is fixed. And he said, and besides all of this, between us and you, there is a great gulf fixed, so that those who want to pass from here to you cannot, nor can those from there pass to us. The boundaries are set. Then he said, here's where we start thinking about it. We start thinking about our brothers. We start thinking about our children. We start thinking about our sisters. We start thinking about everybody that's living in sin, and we haven't even attempted to do anything about it. I don't want to believe that about this congregation. I believe most of you have tried your best to set a good example in front of your children and your family. I have. Sue and I have. But it's not always worked. Do you think I blame myself? Absolutely not. You need to get used to saying, not my sin. You're not responsible for somebody else's sins. You're not responsible for their language. You're not responsible for their actions. You're responsible for you. And I am responsible for me. And he said, besides this, then said he, I beg you therefore, Father, that you would send him to my father's house. For I've got 5 brothers, that he may testify to them, lest they also come to this place of torment. Abraham said to him, they have Moses and the prophets. Let them hear them. And he said, no, Father Abraham. But if one goes to them from the dead, they will repent. What am I saying tonight? We're entering his season. You had a tremendous price paid for your evil sins and my evil sins. To get rid of them and to remove them from us and to keep them from us. He said if one went back from the dead, they would believe. But he said to him, if they do not hear Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded though one rise from the dead. The most difficult decision that I ever made in my life was in this place a long time ago. And once I made it, I got reprogrammed. Now, I've been using that term. Oh my, it's quadratic. You sleep in the morning, Saturday. But I'll not say nothing else about somebody being long-winded. You got that right. If you go back to the account of Nicodemus, a very good man, came to Jesus. Here comes your reprogramming. And he talked to him about eternal life and stuff. And he said, you got to be born again. That's the same thing that I'm going to say to you tonight. I'm going to talk in today's term. You need reprogramming. You need for God to delete The material that's on your computer, which is your mind, you need to have him delete that, clean it up, and reprogram it. That's what you need. That's what I needed. It's the only thing that ever changed my mind. I'm going to close, and again, we're going to talk about water. Because that's very important in the plan of salvation. He that believeth and is baptized will be saved. Some men will say that's a work of the flesh. It's a commandment of God. It is a commandment of God. It needs to be preached today. If you've done those things, just before we close in our closing song tonight, I want everybody in here to stand. Don't get in a hurry to leave. Don't put your coat on. Don't be putting your books in your seat. Give people time to think. Any distraction would pull me away from the love of my Master. We're going to sing Free Waters. Know you not as many as up were baptized into Christ have put on Christ. You can't put him on any other way. He cannot become a part of your body any other way than obedience. And if you're here tonight, if God has spoken to you, this is your time. You're going to have to deal with it somewhere. Once God speaks to you, you're going to have to deal with it. And let me tell you something. He also said, there'll be a time I won't do that anymore. You need to think about these things. And if you're a good old Christian here tonight, I want you to know something. You've been my family at Lacy Creek. And I love you dearly. And we've cried together, we've laughed together, we've fought together, we've done all the things that humanity does. And yet here we are tonight in the house of God, ready to rejoice. I'm going to ask you to step out of your seat tonight. If God has spoke to you, will you please stand for just a minute's silence? Let's all stand.